Welcome back or welcome to the Single Track Podcast. This is the 2026 Black Canyon 100K preview, joined by friends, colleagues, Brett Hornig, Leah Yingling. Brett, how's it going tonight?
Classic single track intro. You can bring back the music?
I lost the file years ago. Not many people know this, but now everyone knows this. I lost the file switching computers. The files are in the computer. And it was kind of Mike Tamayo made it too. It was a great track, and I haven't used it for years.
Wait.
Yeah.
I have it on one of my drives because
No
we had
way.
it as the Western States intro and I had it on a loop. I have it. I can give it to you. It's in one of my computers too.
Throwback.
Okay,
I had
I'll send
no
it to you.
idea we were going to be talking about audio files, but this is amazing. I was genuinely like distraught and never talked to anyone about it. I just did raw intros for, since then.
No, I have it on my desktop that's right down here by my feet in the backup drive. I have a whole like 2023 or 2024 Western States folder. I've got it.
That was when I lost it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
I'm doing amazing.
I'm doing great. Leah, how are you?
I'm pretty good over here. No lost audio files and no retrieved audio files. We're just status quo.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I preamble a bit. This is not just the first golden ticket race of the year, the calendar year, I should say, but it's also, and you could argue this, it has become a championship level race on the North American scene. 6 golden tickets on the line, World Trail Major status, competing with states some years for the deepest domestic field. I'm looking at both men's and women's sides, 20 to 30 athletes capable of podiuming. Mike said this a few years back. It's become a barometer for where professionalism is at the sport at any given time. I don't know. Like, I know we're going to talk about course preview, latest conditions in a second, but maybe starting with storylines. Like, Leah, how do you feel about what's making this year interesting?
Every year at Black Canyon, we just talk about how much more competitive it's getting. And it's just, we could say the exact same thing about this year. And I think we've got a lot of new names on there who are stepping up in distance or debuting from the roads. Molly Seidel, for example. I think there's been a lot of media attention on her. A lot of people coming here with new sponsors. So a lot of really fun stories to follow. And I think it's going to be some fast racing, looking like a great weather day. I think we're in for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is always such an interesting one because it's February. Some people are having to Rocky for it with their training. Some people are getting like beautiful Arizona miles. It's always been like it's like the free agency Hail Mary where you could pop off an amazing one and then get that end of Q1 signing, before Western States. We've seen that happen before. This race has also reminded me of a lot of like early season track meets on the pro circuit where you get like college kids that are NCAA sharp peaking at the end of their season in May. And then you have pros that are just starting their season and they get this interesting overlap. And sometimes you see some big upsets. Like in this case, it would be like the unsponsored versus some of the like certified heavy hitters, like they already know they need to be the fittest version of themselves in July, August, September, and they might go into this, ready to race, but still just not as fit as they might be 6 months down the road. Whereas you might get that other person that has been thinking from last fall, like, I am going to have the best race of my life here at Black Canyon. And I think that's why we still see some of those, quote unquote upsets where it's like, what was this person doing in front of this person?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Brett, I know you're lining up for the 50K on Sunday. Looking at the entrance list for the men's 100K, for example, like how terrified would you be racing against this field and thinking about the paces that they'll be throwing down?
Oh, it's insane. It would be more like 3 months ago when I looked at the splits and saw what I needed to train. Like I need to be ready to run, what, like 6:15 pace through the first 20 miles and it feel incredible. Like it needs to feel like a jog. what does that mean from a training standpoint? We're seeing still a lot of really different things. We see athletes come in treating this like it's a mountainous 100K in their training and have huge success. We've seen some people, run more miles and a little bit less vert, because if you train down on this course, you're not going to get a ton of climbing, but you get that course experience. So it really lends to an interesting science experiment as well in terms of the training for what do you need to have success. And I feel like that the answer to that question as well is like, what do you need to do on race day to be successful? That question from a tactics standpoint has changed a lot in the last few years too.
It's changed so much.
Leah, I never really know increasingly where the last season ended and where this one begins. I guess I just technically call this an early season race. And Brett, you said something interesting there about like the comparisons to track and field. I've always wondered if these early season races, if you buy the argument that for veterans of the sport, they maybe need experience later into the year to kind of warm up and have their best results. Are these types of races young person's games and the veterans are at a disadvantage? Is that just a wild theory to shoot out there?
I mean, I don't think it's a while. I mean, I think these veterans, they could be in peak shape for this race if they chose to. But, we have some people who are already in Western states. They're, going to be eyeing UTMB, maybe even potentially bigger races further down the road. So then it's like their choice to know that, okay, well, if I want to make it all the way through to UTMB 2026, I got to, maybe shut it down in the early winter, late fall of 2025 and then start ramping things back up because it's hard to be in, a race fitness all year round.
Yeah. Yeah, that you actually make me think of something I said yesterday. I was looking at Abby Hall's training and it looks pretty reasonable for Black Canyon. She's already into Western States from being F1 last year. And I commented to Mike saying, wow, like Abby's training looks awesome, but it's not like over the top. I said, man, she never like does this huge volume that other people are doing. And he said, do you remember her Western States block? It was gigantic.
Yeah.
It was 130, 140 miles a week. So I think she's one of those people. She's into Western States and she's doing pretty like conservative for her training and getting sharp for Black Canyon, but not putting in like the volume that she would for Western States. But then there's someone like Jen Lichter who we saw throw up a 140-mile week in training, who is probably doing that like Western States style training that Abby did for Western States, but doing it early because this is a big one truly for her to like go for it.
Okay, that makes me wonder. This is a great point, by the way. We often talk about A, B, and C races. If you do a B training block, could you still come in and give out an A race effort?
I think that's where the veteran experience and years of training can help out. I think potentially someone who's done this for a while, like we'll just use Anthony Costales as an example. Like he has a lot of years of really high quality running where he could probably take an amount of time off, do a training block, and then give himself that chance of popping off an amazing race just because it's like kind of always there and it's not in super foreign, it's not like something unknown. Like he's won this race before. There's not that many people that have won this race. So he already has just a little bit of an edge over everyone else. And it's like, so maybe if he's not going in 100%, he would have a better chance of popping off an A race than someone else who's just never had that kind of A race before in the past.
Yeah. And I also think there's differentiation between, volume, like quantity and quality. I think there's some athletes who maybe a A block for them is quantity, so a huge volume block, whereas for other people, it's a quality block. I think that's something that Rachel Drake has talked about before, who was a prior winner at Black Canyon, was she was coming off of a CIM block into Black Canyon, and she was really focusing on quality for CIM and then like cranking it up just a little bit and not going too high in volume just to be sharp for Black Canyon. And that worked out for her. Granted, that was a couple years ago. And I do think times are changing a bit and paces are getting exceptionally faster. So maybe training mindset does need to shift as well. But I think there can be kind of two different styles when you're approaching the training.
And this race is still long enough too, where there is an element of brain that you need to have on race day. It's not so short and so fast where it's like you can throw nutrition and fueling and everything out the window and maybe one time out of 10 squeak your way to the finish. This is still, at the very fastest, what's the course record? 7:20 or something like that. Yeah, 7:24. That's too long to fake fueling. It's too long to fake cooling. So there is still the component of like you need to be a savvy racer still on top of being pretty fit.
You must have brain.
Must have brain.
I have always called the Black Canyon 100K course the Venus flytrap of ultra running courses.
I've never heard you say that.
I've never heard you say
to myself, in my mind, just like walking around, going to Whole Foods. It's a Venus flytrap. I mean, think about if you think about it, like mistakes on this course, they do not reveal themselves early. You have a really long downhill effort. You could call it dangerously easy speed. It is easy to rip the first 20 miles to Bumblebee, and it's a trap, right? That's one of the defining features of the course. I've only previewed sort of the back half of it with you guys a few years ago. I don't know it nearly as well as you do, Brett, or you do, Leah. If you guys were to bullet point it, like what else is notable about this course?
You take it away, Brett.
I mean, I really like how you call it, like the first 19 miles, I'd say the Bumblebee is the dangerously fast part. Like you can be a pretender and absolutely still be at the front of the pack to Bumblebee. But then as soon as you leave the Bumblebee aid station at mile like 19, 20-ish, you go up the biggest climb of the day to that point, and then you run along the hillside to the Gloriana aid station. And that first hill tells you everything you need to know kind of about how the rest of your day is going to be, because it should feel pretty good. But some people are like, I hit that hill and my legs felt like lead. And it's like, well, that's because you were going too hard for the first 19 miles, downhill. And then as soon as you wrap around the hillside after Gloriana, it starts to get hot. And even on a cooler year that's still sunny, you start sweating and you can start dumping fluid. And it's still pretty runnable. Like you should still be able to go pretty fast, but all of a sudden you're having to use a little bit more brain space, working on the little components outside of fitness. Like, the pace is pretty much locked in at that point, most people, it's been shaken out enough where you're like, okay, these are now the people that I need to beat if I want a golden ticket. Now it's like, how do I not overheat? How much fluid do I truly now need? Because it's now it's starting to get real. And I think that's why we've seen massive gaps open up between Bumblebee and Deep Canyon Ranch, even though that's not even to the halfway point.
It's interesting. I mean, and this would probably be just characterized for the front of the packs, but in the second half of the race, those are mostly a collection of 4, 5, 6 minute climbs. So they're not even like that big of climbs. It's just attrition over a bunch of successive hills, basically.
Yeah, and like the whole fatigue resistance thing after the big long descent down to Bumblebee. But yeah, it's super fast, and kind of going back to the weather, it looks like it's going to be about the best conditions on that course that I've ever seen for Black Canyon. Because was it 2 years ago, Leah, we were out there and there was snow, but the temperature was great. The temperature was perfect, but the conditions underfoot were not perfect. It was very muddy. This year, the temperatures look almost similar, maybe a touch warmer, but there's not much of any moisture in the forecast for the week leading up to the race. So the actual course should just be like dry and hard.
What exactly does the Brett's AccuWeather report say? Are we talking like 70s, 80s? What's the...
No, I think high 60s, honestly, which, I mean, for people in the Mountain West training in a winter, actually, no, people from the East Coast training, and they have a brutal winter right now. The Mountain West, honestly, they're going to be ready for this because we've had an absolute crap winter so far. But I don't think it's going to be nearly as hot as last year. we saw heat mitigation actually be the make or break, especially for the men's race last year. There was a lot of talk around Seth Ruling versus Eli Hemming early in the day, and Seth, using that brain that Brett was talking about, and Eli slacking a little bit early on some of those crucial decisions that he probably paid for a bit later. So I don't think we'll be seeing as many of those heat mitigation strategies needing to be implemented as early, but it will still feel quite warm by, mid-morning and afternoon, I think.
Yeah. Do you think these lower temps are going to give people a false sense of I should run even faster in the first half?
Definitely. Definitely.
That'll be exciting to watch.
I'm also worried for anyone who's lining up at this race already with a spot in Western who's hoping to get a heat experience at race intensity. I think it's important. I suspect it will be critical if you're using this as as sort of a tune-up for Western states. I think it'd be nice to have some sort of replica there. I don't think we're going to get it, unfortunately.
I don't
No.
think so.
You will
Brett,
get good competition at least.
You will get, yes, people racing people. You're going to get a lot of that. Brett, and I was looking back at just our recent previews. You've talked about Black Canyon also just being pivotal transition zones. And we can talk about the course and not treating the first 20 miles with respect. Last year, you pointed out sort of the famous example of Seth ruling, observing Eli, maybe making just like bottle exchange mistakes early on, and those things magnify. Talk more about that.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of really fit people who line up to these races, but then it comes down to the actual race day execution and the details. And, this race is long enough where you do need to pay attention to that sort of thing. You can't skip aid stations. You can't skip gels. You can't skip the ice and the water to try and gain 1 or 2 seconds. You just can't fake those things anymore. So it does almost then put more pressure on the crews out there. Like the more dialed your crew is and the better decisions that they can make for you. Cause like if I come in and, Leah's crewing for me and I'm like, I feel good, she's going to be like, shut up. Here's an ice bandana. And I would then know, okay, yeah, Leah's right. She's been out here all I'm racing. I'm tired. Like I'm probably not thinking as well. So then I think the more dialed, the more experienced crews, they become more important the quicker your aid station transitions get.
I will be on the lookout at Bumblebee, all the early ones, for the front runners who are doing it all right, checking all the boxes, but then also getting out quickly and not losing contact. I think in this race, I think it's going to be critical not to lose contact early. I think even just 10, 15 seconds delay leaving an aid station and you lose that pack, I can imagine for the front runners how demoralizing that could be. I think that'll be a huge factor. Early prediction
Yeah.
for me.
I think that's really important and something we saw last year. So Joe McConaughey, who ended up getting, I think, the final golden ticket last year, he was in, I think, 12th place at Bumblebee last year. And that's about as far back as I think you can reasonably be with how fast these fields are getting. And he was just like 2 or 3 minutes off the lead runner there. So that's like 20 miles. The leader's running 2 hours. He's running 2 hours, 3 minutes. You really have to be within that amount of time if you want a shot at a golden ticket and if you want a shot at staying in contact. And those aid station transitions are getting so fast. Brett can speak to this, how difficult it is to even ID the 20 people who are coming through at a rush. And those are people that you're competing with and battling it out with out there. So it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Are these cooler weather conditions
totally
just rewarding raw fitness? Like, is the interpretation here that like lower temps, it's just whoever has the best fitness on the day, those are the favorites?
Because does the fitter person also then do better in the heat because they're running farther away from their max?
Yeah.
Or
I
does
don't know.
the cooler temp actually lend to maybe the slightly less experienced person who has a higher chance of blowing up in the heat?
It's tough. This makes me think about the cool Western states we had a couple years ago, where there was pretty much no carnage, and the results played out pretty much fittest to least fit for the most part. Like there wasn't a lot of opportunity for, the variables of ultra running to really come into play. It was fit to least fit. But then last year, for example, last year was a hot year, and we had a lot of discussion in our pre-race episode about marathon times and what kind of baseline marathon fitness you need to be in to be competitive. And I think looking at our women's side, our top three last year were Riley Brady, Tara Dower, and MK Sullivan. And I'll use Tara Dower and MK Sullivan as an example. Like Tara's marathon PR is a 3:02 and MK's is a 2:36. And Tara beat MK by about, 15, 20 minutes or so. So I think in a race like that where it was hot, you could be this resilient, very durable runner like Tara is and come out on top for somebody who might have a bit more baseline fitness than you have. So I think we could make all these predictions, but I think all those variables come into play. And if you're within a plus or minus, 20-minute marathon PR of somebody, I think you've got a chance.
So there might be a little bit less of a chance this year for someone to make a late move, like a Joe McConaughey type thing. Like that might not happen this year because of the cooler temps.
I agree with that.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense.
That's our conclusion.
The end.
Roll credits. We see this, in live stream commentary quite a bit. I think this is actually something that could be fun to attempt to define here. And I have this written down, when people say someone went quote unquote too early at Black Canyon, especially someone who's fighting for position, golden ticket, the win, what does that actually mean or look like in real terms? Are we talking about just like actual placement in the field versus how we kind of interpret them in the sport? Is it an actual time to Bumblebee?
Yeah.
How do you guys think about this?
Okay. I've been brainstorming this a bit. And first off, I don't think we often say anybody went too soon at Black Canyon necessarily. I think a lot of the people
It's a retrospect thing.
who go too soon have actually nailed it a bit. Like I would have told you mid-race last year, like Riley's going too soon, but then Riley nailed it. The year Trueheart ran the race that he did, I would have said the same thing then, but then he nailed it. Something I think that is interesting, I think it's more relative to the fitness piece that you're talking about. It's like by this time in the sport, we kind of have an idea of what paces are comfortable for certain people. So if you see somebody like outrunning their fitness early on, I might say, yeah, they're going too soon for their fitness. And I think we see that then hit those people in the second half of the race. But an important stat that I came across was looking at how much faster both the men's and women's field have gotten just over the course of the last 2 years. So for the first 20 miles in 2024, when I think Hayden Hawks ran the prior CR, he ran like 6:25 pace into mile 20. And last year, like 15 guys ran under 6:15 pace into mile 20. So if we're talking like what is a stupid pace, you running into mile 20, like maybe sub 6-minute pace. But the second I say that, Francesca Pupi's going to go running sub 6-minute pace into mile 20.
Huh.
Okay, so I've got an interesting stat that I think piggybacks well off of this in where time gets made up or lost on this course. And I didn't ever really think about it this way. Thank you to AI for helping me have a conversation with like a robot about this. But at least in the last few years, since we've had a split from Deep Canyon Ranch, the women have run the second half of this course significantly stronger than the men, which I never looked at the times that closely. So the best, like if we were calling Deep Canyon Ranch the halfway mark, it's actually technically like 51 or 52% of the way. But for lack of a better term, if we split it into halves, last year, Riley's second half was 6% slower than their first. And that was the best that anyone's ever done on that course, at least for a winner. I look back like 10 or 15 deep. The next best was Rachel Drake, the previous winner, 7%. On the men's side, it was Hayden, Hawks, Seth Ruling, and Will Murray were all about tied at 10%. So interestingly, I think on the men's side where there's more time to be taken off is not fading as much in the second half. But on the women's side, it's actually going out a little bit harder and then just holding that 6%. So, we saw Riley come through Bumblebee in about 2:14 last year, which was 7 minutes faster than Rachel.
Well, that's also 7-minute pace. That is fast.
Yeah, it's very fast. But it was 7 minutes faster than Rachel, but Riley didn't slow down at all. Riley just ran faster and then slowed down. So it's like, okay, well, that tells me someone can probably go out even faster and slow down less. And then when I started taking, because we've been throwing on the men's side, the sub 7 hour Black Canyon 100K round. So then I was like, well, how do you break 7 hours? You need to come through Deep Canyon Ranch in about 3:22, I think that's what, and then have a Riley Brady level of execution in the second half to break 7 hours, which 3:22 is, I think Seth and Will came through in 3:31 last year.
Oh, that's pretty fast.
So you need to be like 9 minutes faster than them to
And
Deep Canyon
close
Ranch.
smarter.
And then get that percentage down from 10% to 6%. But it kind of gave me a glimpse of like, maybe not impossible though. So
that's impressive.
So circling all the way back to like, what is too stupid of a pace? Interestingly, I think on the women's side, I think there's a lot more room for the women to go out even faster through Bumblebee and through Deep Canyon Ranch. And I'm wondering how much of that is a product of a congested section of single track in the first bit, because it's a lot of people racing.
Quick thanks to Precision Hydration, the official nutrition partner of the Single Track Podcast. I've said this before, but what I appreciate most about Precision is how practical their approach is. They're not trying to sell you a one-size-fits-all product. Everything starts with understanding your needs, how much you sweat, how much sodium you lose, how many carbs you actually take in per hour. That's why I keep pointing people towards Precision's Fuel and Hydration Planner. We answer a few questions about your body, your pace, the conditions you're racing in, and it gives you a clear, realistic plan that you can actually execute on race day. I've used this process in my own training and racing. It's helped me simplify decisions instead of overthinking nutrition when it matters most. If you want to check it out, head to the link in our show notes, which goes straight to the planner. And if you decide to order anything, feel free to use code SingleTrack at checkout on their site for 15% off your next order. Big thanks to Andy Blow and the entire Precision team for supporting the show.
Do you think those differentials are going to hold this year? The 10 and 7%?
Well, I mean, so on the women's side, we've seen a 6 and a 7% as being about the best. So like, it seems like that'll maybe hold. And then on the men's side, it's been 10 on both sides. But like, is that for just like the way men race or their like physiology? Are they always going to have that same kind of slowdown, or has no one just done it a little bit better? I mean, I feel like if anyone's going to knock that differential down, it's Francesco, just because of the way I don't know what the actual numbers were, but it felt like he gave something like that at Canyons last year.
Is the answer obvious that you do want to set up your race to even split or negative split Nick Curry style, or is there some advantage to like, and again, maybe it's like the David Roche school of thought, right? Where it's like, you just go out hard and then you hang on.
I think it's that. And I think that's what you need to do these days. Like, I don't think anybody's really coming from behind or even splitting Black Canyon and coming out on top. I think you really do need to see how durable of a runner you are late in the race. And I honestly think that's why we're seeing such high volume training blocks these days, is to be able to go out fast and truly hold that longer.
Yeah, totally. And like the second half of this course is slower than the first half. So like, if you're running a perfectly even split between the two halves, I think you went out too slow. I'm just really curious now, like, what is the perfect slowdown differential for like what I would consider like an even effort race? And it was
I like
really
that
cool.
6% number. That's nice. I
Yeah,
think maybe
6. Seems like a nice number, but yeah, I had a really fun time doing a deep dive on those split differentials.
Before we get into women's field preview, we've got just maybe one or two listener submitted questions here. Okay, I think this is a good one. I gave this one to you guys ahead of time. This is a listener. If this exact field ran Black Canyon in 2018, this is a couple parts. Who would win? And what skill set mattered then that doesn't anymore? And I guess if you put this a different way, what does it take to win elite ultra trail races now compared to even a few years ago? Or I guess this was 8 years ago I don't know why they picked 2018, but they picked 2018.
I don't even think Black Canyon was a golden ticket race in 2018.
Well,
I think
it
21. Was it 21 was the first year?
Oh.
No, 2019 for sure was.
19, okay.
Elsa McDonald got one for the women that year, and she beat Courtney, and I do think this was a golden ticket race.
Okay.
And Tim Frericks won for the men, but Elsa got second overall that year. So, what did I say? I said whoever is winning this year is also winning in 2018, and I think these days you just need to have pretty impeccable nutrition and good race day tactics and competitive drive. Whereas then, I think you could get away with not having any of those and still doing decent because the sport was less deep.
Yeah. In 2018, you had to be really good at metabolizing your own body fat. In 2026, you don't need to be good at that anymore.
No.
Because that's actually not even faster, like race car fuel.
Yeah. Also, Elsa that year, her winning time would have been 5th place on the women's side last year. So, that is actually still a stout time considering how fast the women's field is getting, and the fact that I think 5 of the women's times last year ended up in the all-time top 10 at Black Canyon. So last year was an exceptionally fast year, and Elsa's time still kind of holds its own.
One skill set that I said seemed to matter in 2018, but I just we don't really see it anymore, was like basically being off the front by like the first aid station and then just soloing and just gradually dying a little bit slower than everyone else. Whereas like you can't run away from the pack by the first aid station anymore at Black Canyon. Like, and if you do, you're going to blow up because like there are 25 other guys who are plenty fit enough to do that. The one thing that you need to be okay with that I feel like just didn't exist in 2018 was pack running on a trail for a pretty long time. You know, like we see the train of people come through. I mean, Bumblebees, like that's 19 miles in. You know, in 2018, the race was probably pretty much decided by then.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like this, you're trying to call it like the same way through the first aid station where you're just like, I can't see who these people are.
Okay, the listener said I couldn't say their name, but thank you, listener, for the great question. I took a slightly different approach. I said asset instead of skill set. And I think in 2018, just having coaching was a competitive advantage, someone structuring your training. I think in 2026, there needs to be coaching differentiation. So ideally, you're seeking out someone who has an interesting philosophy on the sport that no one else is getting trained under. You know, and what sticks out in my mind is hearing, again, I've said this on a pod a few weeks ago, Tom Evans on the Free Trail pod for Trail Runner of the Year, lamenting the fact that like he helped, I know it was out there for a while, but he helped popularize weighted vest hiking. And that was one of his competitive advantages. So I think anyone in the sport who is under the guidance of someone who, you know, doesn't have like a large athlete roster or elite athlete roster, I think that's significant. Like you are working in a way that probably no one else is working right now.
Yeah. And I guess that's like the same equivalent for 2018, which is like having any coaching.
Yeah. Who do you think in the field has that specific thing right now, Finn? Like that differentiation of training that nobody else is getting? Because when I looked at the entrance lists and started digging into some athletes a couple years ago, we probably would have said that, you know, who we have in the top 10 on each side is going to be dominated by swap athletes. And I think we've seen a little bit of a training shift in the last year or so. of a lot more athletes being coached under the CTS umbrella, which tends to be a higher volume umbrella. And we're seeing a lot of that training look pretty similar in some ways. It's pretty standard. It works, but it is pretty standard and predictable. So is there anybody that you see in this field who's getting a little bit of something different or approaching this race with something different that might be advantageous?
That is such a good question. I don't know the answer, but you made me think of this. I will be paying attention very closely at the end of the race to both top 10s and what percentage of both top 10s are not represented by CTS, Evoke, Swap. Who else is a big name? Those three camps. Like I'll be so curious. Yeah, yes. Charles and Darmok.
Does
Charmin
Francesco
Ultra.
does Francesco Pupi have a coach?
Good question.
I don't know.
Because I was going to say, if he doesn't have a coach, I think he has an edge by getting to spend the last month, 6 weeks in Flagstaff with the GOAT.
I liked his one post about like somebody must be following his training to try to have some insight into what Jim's training is, and he commented that, hey, follow me for my training. This is not Jim Strava.
Yeah, I always applaud Francesco's like confidence to clap back at anyone. I think that's great for the sport. But I do think that just kind of having, because Francesco's like one of the best trail runners in the world, and when you're at that level, it's hard to find training partners.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually probably had a pretty good one for the last handful of weeks, and sounds like they're not going on every single run together, and that's fine. You don't need to run with your training partners every single time, but you're getting a good not even glimpse. Francesco knows what it takes to be the best in the world, but maybe a good glimpse to see what it takes to be the best on this particular course.
Let's go to the women's field. Leah, I know you are famous at this point for your categories. I'm not putting that pressure on you, but
Thank you.
how do you want to lead us into this preview?
Yeah, I think this year we have several veterans of this race, and then several newcomers to this race. And the veterans are extremely high performing here. We have 5 from last year's top 10, Riley Brady, Tara Dower, Abby Hall, Shea Aquilano, and Madison Lake D. And they all ran extremely fast. I think those times were all under like 9 hours, 15 minutes. We also have a lot of people who are either Olympians or world record holders, like Ann Flower, our recent 50-mile world record holder, Molly Seidel coming over from the Rhodes, 3rd place in the Olympics, which nobody else can claim in this field, and Catriona Jennings, who just set the 100-mile world record at Tunnel Hill back in the fall. Like really dynamic skill sets. Carla Molinaro, too, who is just was at the front of the race at Javelina and ended up pulling out around the 100K mark, but really excels on courses like Comrades, Two Oceans, and has been excelling at things like Catriona Jennings has over the years. So those almost like 2 sectors of, the roads, we always say like the road speeds, the roadsters, and the people who are veterans. But I think we have kind of a good differentiation there. And then somebody like Jen Lichter, who's been dominant on the trails and who has had pretty decent races at 50 miles, but hasn't ever raced the 100K distance and hasn't exactly nailed the 50-mile distance yet either. So a little bit of a question mark around her there. But I mean, it's going to be absolutely stacked.
Who do you see in this field to kind of take the reins early? Like, who do you think's coming through like Bumblebee first? I'm not going to use the first edition.
I think this race is going to be really interesting because I think Riley Brady does the best when they're running off the front of the pack and being challenged from behind by like 2 minutes. So Riley's off the front. Riley has a chase pack 2 to 3 minutes behind them. They then extend that lead over the course of the race and is never having that gap be closed. I think this race we are going to see Riley run off the front of the pack, but Riley's going to be challenged at that front more than they've been in recent years at a race like Javelina or Black Canyon, which I think will be an interesting outcome then because I'm curious to see how that plays with Riley's race tactics. I could see people like Jen Lichter challenging them. Jen loves to race and loves to be competitive, and I don't take her as somebody that is just out there following splits. I take her as somebody that is just racing people, racing the course, and getting the most out of herself. And I could see Molly Seidel following right behind. Just that pace is going to feel extremely easy for somebody like her, and probably Ann Flower, somebody like that as well. So I think they'll be right there in that mix.
Yeah. I think it was last year when Riley passed Mary Denholm right around Gloriana?
Yeah.
To then eventually, like, that was the winning move.
That
was at mile 24. That was
Mhm.
really early on in the race, and we were kind of both saying, like, was that really the winning move 24 miles in? Yeah, I think the depth of the heavy hitters this year is to the point where that move should happen a little bit later.
I think so.
Yeah, because there's some people who've had, I like, one of my categories, my heavy hitter category on the women's side was like, they've all had at least one like win or very high placing on like big stage. And yeah, there's a lot of people who have done it. Like, podiuming races is cool, but it's like a whole nother thing to win a big one, because it's big and scary to all of a sudden be the first person in the field, and like, you're the first person that's coming through these aid stations, and like, you cross the finish line first, and that's like a whole different level of stress. But there's like potentially up to like at least 10 women who, maybe even, no, more than 10, now that I'm looking at the numbers, like, they've all handled that at some point in their careers very well. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like what the panic point is for some of these people, and where is it on the course.
Mm-hmm.
There's still so much to unpack on the women's side. One of the elephants in the room, not elephant, this is a good thing. This is like a great scenario. Molly Seidel is in this race. Obviously, she's going to bring a ton of attention to the live stream. She's coming into the sport at her prime, champion, Olympic bronze medalist in the marathon. Exciting times. If you had to take out your magic 8-ball and forecast her day on this course, what do you think are reasonable expectations for what she's capable of? And I'm going to call this a debut at like a premier ultra event.
Who's going first?
Oh,
Leah, you can go first.
I have a lot of confidence in Molly right now. She's being coached by Cliff Pittman, and he seems to really be directing the ship over there in the best way possible. Like, Molly seems to have given the reins almost entirely over to him. So I think if she is able to execute and dial her nutrition in and fix some of the mistakes that she made at Bandera, which she alluded to were electrolyte related and kind of GI distress related, I do think her training will lend itself to having a top 3 golden ticket day at Black Canyon. I hope her body like stays together. I know she's had to drop out of marathons before with like little knee niggles, things like that. I think a 100K over a course like Black Canyon can beat you up, especially after a first like pretty net downhill 20 miles, that it might be easy to lean into some of those feelings in the latter half of the race that she hasn't really experienced yet. So curious how those demons present themselves as the race goes on for her. But I do have full confidence if she makes it to the finish line, it's going to be in a podium position.
That's a good point that you brought up, Leah, about like when you get into the later stages of an ultra, like, you've run a lot of ultras, you're probably pretty good now at self-diagnosing, am I getting injured right now, or is this just I'm running an ultra? And early on, I remember in some of my first, those two feelings are almost impossible to differentiate, but now I know them really well.
Yeah. And the panic button goes off. And often you just go down a rabbit hole in your head then, like, am I injured? Should I drop out? I'm going to drop out. And then you convince yourself all the reasons you should drop out. So
yeah. And
this can be
that's
avoided.
just an experience thing. So Finn, going back to your question about what does a good day look like for Molly? I mean, I know it's kind of low hanging fruit, but it's like, I think a day where Molly finishes the race healthy and did a good job of trying to execute all the things that she can control, regardless of the place. I actually think that would be a very successful day for Molly. Like, if she gets 15th, but like ran smart, didn't get hurt, is able to start training again, learned a lot, observed, like what this whole sport's all about, I would consider that a very successful day. Of course, I do think, kind of, Leah, to your point, Molly's ceiling as an athlete is so high that she could potentially be doing that, like just studying and like making sure that she's like crossing her T's, dotting her, and still land on the podium. And I'm really curious to see if that is going to hold up, or if we're just like absolutely disrespecting all the professional trail runners right now.
Well, so if you were Molly and say Molly's not going to front run, I don't know exactly how she'll race, who would you be tucking yourself behind and trying to mimic the behaviors of in order to have a successful day here?
I would probably try and get myself just in the nice, like somewhere in the Riley, Brady to Abby Hall sort of, like, I think they'll probably be pretty close to each other, but I would just try and be around them. I have a hunch Abby's probably going to run a little bit more aggressive than she did last year. Like, I mean, winning Western States, that feels like a bit of a breakthrough. It's just like, you're Western, like, Abby deserves to be at the front of the pack and it like not be questioned. I think Abby's fit enough for that. I mean, we've seen Abby's thrown down some sick workouts on Strava.
Yes.
So like, Abby's also been a pretty smart racer too. So like, maybe Molly should just like kind of key off of Abby for as long as possible.
So one of my favorite podcasts outside of running is called Pod Save America, and they have this recurring segment called Take Appreciator. Although I think they kind of stopped it recently. Leah, the take appreciation of this episode is if Molly finishes, she's on the podium.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate, like for those of us watching the live stream, myself included, we should very much expect Molly to be right up there competing all day until it doesn't work, or it does.
Yes, that.
Yeah,
100.
I think so, because I don't think from a pacing standpoint that's going to be overly aggressive, early on at least. I think for someone who's just greener to ultra marathons, then having that kind of power in the legs in the second half might be difficult. But you got to do the first half the way you want to do it first before you can see how the second half goes. And yeah, I agree. I don't see why Molly wouldn't just be up towards the front through the first half of the race.
Okay. Leah, back to you again. Who in this women's field, actually some more context, because we didn't talk about this earlier. At this race, 4th to 9th place can be like a media graveyard, or at least after the fact, it's not celebrated for how important it is. Are there people in this women's field that you think are likely to run a much better race than the live stream is going to be able to recover, or the results will reflect?
I think so. I was just thinking about the media graveyard that you discussed. Like, Will Murray got 2nd place here last year, and that result, in theory, did not mean much of anything until he had a javelina to back it up. So I think we're in this age of, you have one good race, great, but you need to have like 2+ on a big stage for brands to care, it seems. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's at least what Will Murray's journey last year told me about this new age of sponsorships.
Who's on that bubble?
Yeah. So then on the women's side, I think Shea Aquilano consistently performs at Black Canyon, but she always ends up in that 4th through 7th position that doesn't get a lot of credit. Shay landed herself an awesome sponsorship with ACG last year, right after her Gorge 100K wire-to-wire win, which I thought was awesome. I could see her having another day here that lands her in that 4th through 7th position that gets pretty overshadowed by some of the like big names like Molly on the start line, who might also be in that mix and might get a lot of credit because, like Brett said, Molly just finishing this race is a huge achievement for somebody who's never really raced trails before. So I think my answer is Shay. I also think, I was going back through last year's 5 through 10 on the women's side, and it does end up being kind of forgettable, those 5 through 10 positions on both men and women's side. So I think you really need to be on the podium here to make a splash in most of the sport right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. And it doesn't even necessarily come from like you can have a contract right now and still need to make that splash.
Yeah. Another thing too is like you could run. We haven't talked about this yet, but I see the women's course record going down this year, and I could see like 4 people running under that course record, and that 4th place person is going to be overshone, whatever by everybody that's ahead of them, or the course record breaker, because 3 other people ran faster than you. So I definitely could foresee a situation like that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Wait, if it goes down, how much is it going down by, Leah?
I think it could go down by like 5 to 10 minutes. So what Riley run last year?
8:16.
8:16, which
And
Finn, that
Tara
question
ran
about
8:25.
The question about 2018, Tim Frericks won in 8:12, which is crazy to see how far the women's sport has come because we're running times like men's race from 2018. So I think women can run 8:12, Tim Frericks 2018 time. And who is running that? I think Riley is running that. And then I think a couple other people could too. Like,
I think it's going to be bigger than that.
you think?
What is the most extreme but believable new course record out there this weekend?
8 hours.
Okay, yeah. What's more likely, men's sub 7 or women's sub 8?
I think what's more likely, women's sub 8.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
women's sub 8 is going to happen before men's sub 7 happens.
I agree. I think I could see 7:10 on the men's side, 8 hours on the women's side this year.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I see under that. That's a big 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially because how much it already got taken off. But
Yeah. Cool.
Is Tara's 13:31 at Javelina? Would that be the equivalent of like sub 8 here?
No.
I feel like no. I feel like it's what do you think? 8:10?
I think 8:10, 8:15 is Tara's equivalent of Javelino.
Yeah. Because Will's 12, what are you on, 12:11 at Javelina?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably worth a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple minutes faster than Seth, but
Tara's Javelina. Tara and Abby are the 2 on the women's side who are already into Western States. Is that correct?
yes.
Tara, Abby, yep.
So those are 2 that could run with no abandon.
Yeah, they could just full and go for it. If you were in their shoes, what would you, at this point in the year, would you like to chase a time like that? Or would you like to just let things shake out? If you were already in Western States, would you want to have a race plan or not?
No, I think I would want to race people, try a new race tactic that I think might be a little risky, and perhaps something that I would want to then emulate at Western States and practice it. So Western States isn't the first stage where you're trying a riskier approach.
I would be really curious to know how many athletes in this women's field have taken that philosophy of like, you have basically one really great performance in you each year and you build your season around one event and everything else is gravy. I would be really curious to know how many have taken that to heart and how many of that cohort are comfortable just showing up to Black Canyon and having a pretty solid day, but being okay with maybe the very front of the race getting away from them. It's kind of like the Lance Armstrong strategy in cycling where he was just committed annually to peaking for the tour, and he would race quite a bit, but he was totally fine with everything around it on either side of it, just like getting away from it if need be, if it didn't fit the plan.
But what if you need to get into Western states?
But for people like Abby, for example, is this just the tune-up, or is she there because she feels like she can throw down and then be fine for another great block for Western and defend the title?
I think that.
Totally. It's Abby's almost that good where, like this block maybe doesn't need to be as perfect as Western states and still be in contention to win. Whereas Riley needs a golden ticket. Jen Lichter needs a golden ticket. Like they hopefully then do have all their eggs in this Black Canyon basket, and then you just hope that you can do it again at Western states. And I'm still not sure if one is even better than the other, because I don't know if I think it sure feels like people can have more than one incredible performance per year.
I agree. I agree. It's totally possible. I just wonder the extent to which people are just mitigating risk and don't even want to wonder, And it's like,
Yeah.
I know I have one good one in me. I might have a second, but I don't know.
I think for a lot of people, you better have that one good one this weekend, or else you don't get a second chance.
Totally.
And that's
before
what
we
I
get to
love
pick-
about the golden ticket races.
Before we get to picks, for either of you, have there been any interesting training trends or just interesting Strava files that have stuck out to you in this build-up?
Leah, maybe you sent it over to us, but
Yeah, go ahead.
the increase in mileage that Jen Lichter has been putting in for this race versus some of her previous races, is that just a byproduct of I'm training for 100K now versus a sky race or a 50K?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, and I won't speak as if I know what's going on in Jen Lichter's training. This is just all observation, but she did change coaches between her transition from 50K marathon distance style racing to now bumping up in distance, and she's coached by John Fitzgerald out of CTS. So I think that's probably part of it. I think another part of it is she just secured a sponsorship with ACG, and I'm assuming she's getting quite great support from them and has really lended itself to going all in on racing, on training. I think that probably feels pretty comfortable, and you probably feel like you have a whole team supporting you with pretty great incentive structure within the brand as well, which could be highly motivating. And I know ACG has, a lot dangling, carrots dangling around Western states and getting there in golden ticket races. So I think there's a combination there, where in the past we saw her often peaking around like 80 to 90 miles and saw a week on Strava come across as 140 miles training on the course and around in surrounding areas in Arizona. So I think she's going all in here.
Man, what if Jen thought this whole time that she wasn't a high mileage athlete, and then just made a few tweaks, does it, and then realizes oh wait, I've only been running at 60% of my ability level, and now this is actually way better for me.
Totally.
Jen's pretty good at running.
Yeah.
Really, I'm so excited to see this 100K just debut.
Yeah, I think the higher mileage train we've been seeing on Strava has been pretty exciting, and I think it'll lend itself to some interesting racing. I also think these threshold workouts we're seeing done by the CTS athletes are pretty bonkers.
They're big.
Four by it's like 4
5.
to 5 by 15-minute threshold efforts. Abby Hall is an example there, running 540 pace for those, with not a ton of recovery. So just getting that really high quality work and probably resulting in a lot of fatigue resistance and durability as a result of it. But I think as a result, it might make running 7-minute pace feel quite easy for those first 20 miles, and dropping some of those paces later on feel pretty easy. So we'll see how it shakes out. We just need to make sure that people are showing up rested to the start line if they do have some of those higher volume training blocks.
I'm curious if some of these coaches who are coaching some of the best athletes in the sport are, kind of deciding that, some number, like this is fast enough. Like we don't need to really touch on faster than that. So like, let's just hold this, but see how much more of it you can cram in. Cause that,
Totally.
feels like that's what we're seeing. I loved watching, like David Roach's build up to Western States, and he was doing a lot of like very fast stuff. And on the opposite end, we're now seeing these like, like marathon effort, maybe a little bit faster workouts, but not much faster than that, but just more,
More.
more, more. It's like,
Hmm.
are we starting to actually see a different, like a scientific split between shorter, like a marathon? Because it's always been like, just take the marathon, but like tweak it for trail. Are we actually going to be like different?
I think so. We'll see if it sticks. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, I want a retrospective study here on like outcomes, 2, 3+ years down the road. Like,
Hmm.
what's longevity look like? What does fitness like look like? Perhaps this is the approach for people who want to get the most out of themselves in a 1 to 2 year period, but perhaps it's not the approach for longevity in the sport, 5+ years down the road. Who's to say? But
Yeah. And that just
curious.
might not be a luxury that most people
Yeah.
have anymore. Like you kind of like, you have to do the burnout in 2 years if you want to be relevant in the sport and
Yeah.
have a contract.
Two miscellaneous notes from me. I am really excited to see this matchup carry over from 2025 between Jade Belsberg and Shea Aquilano.
Mm,
That was really fun to watch all throughout last year.
it's awesome.
Gorge, JFK, etc. So we're getting it again at Black Canyon. That's a fun little, just like micro theme inside this race. And then, Jen Lichter is moving up in distance and debuting. I'm really also excited to see what happens with Tabor Hemming.
Mm,
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and we've got Tabor and Eli in the same race. So I think it's going to be fun. There's just a lot of cool little storylines here, and then people like Ann Flower and Catriona Jennings, who, um, to date, in a lot of respects, amazing success, and generational performances. How do they do in this environment of just like, again, a field where there's 20 to 30 women who can throw down and possibly podium take a ticket? So
yeah, and one last note too, we didn't mention this, but this is a World Trail Majors race, both the 50K and the 100K. Um, I do think this lends itself to a little bit more of an international field um, for some of these American races. Maybe not like as international as past years, or maybe equally. But I saw names like Maryline Nakache from France on the start list, and then a couple Chinese athletes as well, including Jingyan Tang, who's been top 10 at CCC the last 2 years, or 23 and 24. So I think we're going to see some international talent. We've already mentioned Catriona Jennings and Carla Molinaro as well, but I think they'll be in the mix as well. And curious to see, how the World Trail Majors has influenced the fields that show up here.
Is Anna McKenna racing? I know there's
Yeah,
been times where she's been double entered Tarawera,
she is,
Black
and
Canyon,
she's
but
racing Black Canyon. Yeah.
yeah, because I think she's had maybe like a fifth or so, like a
Hmm.
serial golden ticket racer.
Yeah, she's always our
Um,
one that we talk about as many attempts, but
like
never always
so
one or
close.
two spots away.
I'm excited for the rematch of Riley Brady and Tara Dower. I feel like
Yes.
last year it wasn't a matchup that was on really any of our bingo cards, and even during the race, it just seemed like, will Riley blow up? Will Tara catch Riley? Like, no. I feel like Tara probably learned a lot from that race of like, oh, I closed pretty hard. Like, I deserve to be at the front. Like, I anticipate that we see Tara and Riley much closer together for a longer period of this race. And I don't know, that seems like that would be like a kind of just like a slugfest of no big, like no like punchy aggressive moves, but just like squeezing the pace from like 30 miles out and just see who breaks.
I've got two final questions really quickly before the picks here. Brett, starting with you, rapid fire. Last year, the podium spread on the women's side was 32 minutes between Riley and MK. Do we see a similar spread, or is it much tighter this year?
I think it's tighter. I think it's under 20.
And then does the winner of the women's race here also win Western States again? Is it a repeat? Is this the golden ticket race responsible for the winner of
Like
Western
if you get a
States?
golden ticket here, does that person win Western States?
Because it rolled down, MK rolled to Abby. Abby wins Western. Is this the source for the Western States win this year?
No,
Mhm.
I don't think so.
I agree.
Leah, what's your spread prediction?
Like 15 minutes, I think. I think it's going to be a good race all the way to the finish for the top 3. And I do think the ticket will probably roll down. We might see Black Canyon gets 3 golden tickets. I think we'll probably see somebody in that top 3 already be into Western States, whether that's Tara or Abby. I guess it could roll down as far as 5, actually 6.
It can roll
Here.
down to 6, right?
Yeah.
Let's do picks. Leah, who you got?
Okay, who do I got? All right, I've got. I'll go. We're going 5 deep. I got Shea Aquilano in 5th, Tara Dower in 4th, Molly Seidel in 3rd, Ann Flower 2nd, Riley Brady 1st.
I love how different our picks are all probably
Good.
going to
We
be.
usually have similar ones. This is good.
Wait, Leah, who did you say was winning? Riley?
Riley. Yeah.
Okay.
And the winning time. Sorry.
Oh, okay. What did we say? I think Riley ran what last year, Brett?
8:16, I think is what I
Okay,
said.
Riley's running like 8 minutes faster. Riley's running 8:08. Did we say they were breaking 8 hours this year, though? No, we did. There's too many things that are true. Riley's running 8:08 for the win.
Okay. 5th place, I've got Ann Flower. 4th place, I have Riley Brady. 3rd place, I have Tara Dower. 2nd place, I have Jen Lichter. And 1st place, I have Abby Hall.
Nice.
I think Abby's just gonna continue the good vibes, and like I would say like home field advantage for Abby, because Abby's a lot, I don't know, like more experienced, fitter, like all the above, confident of a runner than at Black Canyon last year. And I'm just gonna go 8:07 to your 8:08, Leah.
I mean, I think, guys, I made these picks and I forgot Abby was running for a second. So if we do publish these, Finn, I might need to make an edit.
Yeah, I think Abby's gonna win.
I
And
still
just
have Riley winning. Even with Abby in there, I have Riley winning.
Okay. Yeah, I think Abby's just gonna do the whole like, I have the F1 bib.
Yeah.
Like,
And I guess for those listening, there are a few people that are on the entrance list who likely are not racing based on some intel, including, I think, Ingvild Kaspersen and Lin Chen. So we're not just excluding them in this conversation. They're likely not starting.
well, I actually didn't know that about Ingvild. I was just excluding them in
Pretty
this
sure.
conversation. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Won CCC a few years ago. She's legit. And sub 17 at Western.
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
her in my heavy hitter category,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people to talk about. All right,
Okay.
Finn, what do you got?
I've got Jade Bellsberg in 5th, Riley Brady 4th, Shea Aquilano 3rd, Abby Hall 2nd, and I've got Jen Lichter for the win, 7:58:56.
Whoa, okay.
All right.
The reason I
know-
say this, go ahead,
Yeah.
go.
Finn's been right recently, and you don't quote me on that, but it is kind of true. So I can't even say whoa to that because we'll probably do a recap episode and we'll be like, oh, Finn, you were right, of course.
Well, here's my rationale. I have no intel. I'm just imagining these training runs happening. Jen, Molly, Abby, that whole group that's just been down there, on course, in flag, etc. I just have it in my head, imagined that they are talking about like the most ridiculous scenarios, ambition, and I just have to believe that there's this like confidence factor and belief that like if someone is going to push the envelope on the women's side at Black Canyon this year, it's breaking that sub-8 barrier. And Jen, just historically, she's been on the pod a few times, just following her career. She seems like a confidence type character, strong beliefs, just has the talent. I just really put a lot of stock in her speed go performance this past year. I know I've been kind of I've talked about that a lot, but I think if you run 5:54 at speed go, like I just think you can probably break 8 hours on this course. Yeah, so I think that sub 8 is the conversation that a lot of the front runners are probably having either internally or amongst their peers, and that's why I put it there.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and I feel like Jen, if anything, is like a course record breaker. She breaks a lot of course records, it seems. So I feel like she likes to chase barriers and chase time. So I would not be surprised either if that was something that was on her radar.
And I think the cooler weather plays into Jen's favor, not necessarily because she's bad at running in the heat, but because it's just one less variable to have to deal with on your debut at the distance.
And then lastly, just Jen takes ticket, Shea takes it, Riley takes it. So I love those 3 additions to Western States as well.
Yeah, who did I have taken tickets? Jen, Tara's already in. So Jen, Riley, and Flower taking tickets.
It's Riley, Ann Flower, and Molly.
And
Brett,
Molly
you wanna
takes a
lead us?
ticket.
Yeah.
Brett,
be
you want to lead us
sick.
into the promised land of the men's field?
I don't know if it's the promised land. It's just Black Canyon. But I kind of put 3 different categories, and I've used this. We got the heavy hitters, and then I've got bridging the gap, which is kind of, Leah, like what you had said, like 1 or 2 pretty big performances, but like maybe needs a win or a second place at this race to like knock themselves into that heavy hitter category. And then I have great, but looking for that breakout performance on the big stage. So like maybe he's had some like smaller race course records or some good performance a couple years ago, but kind of needs, I don't know, 2 years ago in this sport is a really long time now, unfortunately. Where it's like, if it wasn't last year or yesterday,
It's irrelevant.
it's irrelevant. Exactly. Peanuts to an elephant. Heavy hitters. I mean, I've got Francesco Pupi, Eli Hemming, Hans Troyer, and Anthony Costales, which they actually all have quite a bit of overlap, it feels like, in their skill set, where perhaps all of their best races that they've run in their careers have been in that 50 mile to 100K range. And they all get to line up at a pretty fast 100K. Is there anyone that you would add to that heavy hitter list?
What about Will Murray? Would you put him in a heavy hitter yet?
I think I would now. Wait, is Will racing?
I think so.
Oh my God, is Will Murray on the entrance list and I just completely overlooked that? Holy crap.
Well, while you're looking that up, I got a name for you.
Yeah.
Canyon Woodward.
Well, see, that was another one. Is Canyon Woodward a certified heavy hitter now, or does he need to do it one more time?
No, he's a heavy hitter.
Oh, sorry, Will? Is Will not racing?
He's running Canyons. He's signed up for the Canyons 100K.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm ready
he was
to.
on the
I'm
entrance
ready.
list?
Huh?
I'm ready to anoint Canyon.
I'm still not sure because, like, I think he needs a big win.
I think so too. Canyon reminds me so much of like the Joe McConaughey, Blake Slatengren category, where I feel like they're always right there in the mix, but haven't had that one big win yet, but are like competitive when it matters and kind of pull it out when it matters. Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of playing the long game, it seems like.
Yeah.
Is David Roche a heavy hitter?
For something like Black Canyon 100K, I would have put him in the heavy hitter category.
Because Canyon took him to the brink at Javelina.
But he didn't beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was right there.
Yeah, he was right there. And that was like a massive jump in performance for Canyon. Yeah, so like if Canyon does this again and throws himself on the podium this weekend, I'm like forever putting him in the heavy hitter category. But that's why he's in my bridging the gap category. Because he's right
Makes sense. I
there.
like your categories.
You know, a couple other names that I have in my bridging the gap category. Like I have Blake Slatengren, who was 9th last year, but it, like had a pretty baller javelina. The one who is, I think, gone back and forth a couple times is Steven Kirsch. Like I think he's been in the heavy hitter category, and he's my most on the bridge of the gap because his JFK last year was pretty solid. And this distance is kind of seems to be right in his sweet spot. Actually had pretty solid success at states, but Trayson Knopp and Elliot Carden are two other people.
I agree with Elliot Carden and Blake Slatengren. And another one I'll add, Brett, and maybe you're about to say that, is Zach Perrin. All people that were like very much in the mix last year, but kind of fall into that category of people we've forgotten about a little bit. And if you look back at how these guys were running the race last year, Blake was in second place early on in the race. Like he went for it last year.
He went for it.
And he alluded to making some rookie mistakes. And I think he got what he needed to get from racing a race that way because he's historically been somebody who just works their way up throughout the race, it's worked out quite well for him. But I think he wanted to try out what it's like really going for it from the gun and had some problems with that as the race played out. But he was in it. Elliot Carden did not fall back much either. He was in that like second, third place position most of the race. And then I think ended up in 6th. Zach Perrin, same deal, was in the mix, fell back to still being in the top 10 by the end of it.
Yeah. And then like maybe we're bridging the gap or are getting ready to bridge the gap, you know. Like Craig Hunt was 4th in 2024, but like didn't do too great of racing in 2025. And like 2024 was a really long time ago. So it's like,
and he has one of the fastest closes, if not the fastest close at Black Canyon.
Yeah. So then it's just like, will we get 2024 Craig or 2025 Craig or a whole different 2026 Craig? I don't know. Yeah, Zach Perrin's another good one where he's like, the ceiling is there but Zach's mile PR, he's a 3:59 guy. I just listened to his interview with on the Free Outside podcast. That was good to learn a little bit about Zach. Yeah, seems like he's like kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like he seems to have all his eggs in the Black Canyon basket for this year. And it's like I got a lot of time to take off, and I know I can. And definitely one to look out for. And yeah, it's so hard to break into the top 5 of this race. Leah, going back to what you said with like 5 to 10 always being just somewhat forgettable because it's so interchangeable because there's, you know, maybe there's 10 people who can be in the top 5, but then there's like 40 people that can be in the top 10.
And I feel like Black Canyon surprises us every year. Like I personally wouldn't have had Joe McConaughey taking a golden ticket here last year with the people that we had on the start line. Whenever Jupiter made his debut at Black Canyon, would not have had him in the mix where he was. So I do think we'll throw out who we have in our like top 5, but I know these are going to be blasted with names that we aren't even discussing and we should have been this whole time.
You know who's quietly had a solid training block? And it ended up going all right at Javelina, Sage Canaday. He's been kind of on like a nice, good, slow burn for the last few years. And yeah, his running has been looking pretty good. And he's got the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is his distance. He's won this race. Wasn't he the course record holder at one point for a while? I think he had it the longest. Knows how to win the race. So curious to see where Sage will fall amongst all these youths.
All right. I've got 3 or 4 bullet points here The first one is I just wrote down the dominance of Francesco Pupi. The last time he was on American soil, he won the Canyons 100K by 23 minutes. He beat Hans Troyer, Hannes Naumberger, Jeff McGavro, Ryan Montgomery, Gavin Pryor, Rod Farvard, LaPuma. Like,
It wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. He wiped the floor. So to me, this is his race to lose, unless, my next point here, the specter of Jim Walmsley. We have been hearing...
Wait, everyone pause to put your tinfoil hats on.
We have been hearing for weeks, if not months, about the possibility of Jim being a very last-minute entrant to this race. We're recording this Monday, February 9th in the evening. As of this time, he is not on that list, but I have heard from all sorts of people saying he's definitely in, then people saying he's definitely not. Like, it's all across the spectrum of possibility. This is Francesco's race to lose unless Jim Walmsley's in there, and then we have a duel for the ages. Because I believe when Jim is on the start line for any ultra these days, it's because he has a degree of confidence that he's capable of competing and winning the thing. So that one, and then my last one for you guys before I turn it over, can Hans Troyer get it right here? This race has had his number the last 2 years. So there's that, but also he's had a lot of amazing results. Can he now be one of the absolute best in a very deep field? Signs of it at JFK, obviously taking the win there, beating David Sinclair, beating Kirsch. What does it look like in a field of 30 to 40 guys at his level?
And will this be his debut as a Hoka athlete?
Debut
Has he
as a
raced
Hoka
yet?
athlete, I think.
I think so.
So that's now, I mean, that adds a layer of confidence, but it also adds a layer of pressure because this is a Hoka race. We're trying to qualify for all these Hoka races. Like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of the big kids run for Hoka, and it's like now I mean, I kind of put that expectation on him now. Like, if he, I'm not, no slight to ultra at all, but it's like he switched to Hoka. I'm like, dude, you run for those guys now, like you're winning trail races.
Yeah. I guess I have one more here, and it's just a couple random ballers, if you will. Finney and Jacobson Schult. I think I got that pronunciation correctly. Go check out the work he's put in. He's had a couple Strava File of the Week contenders, based out of Boulder. Some of the runs on Gold Hill, incredible. And then this, I think, last year, my Rookie of the Year prediction, or I gave him Rookie of the Year, Coleman Craig, and I think he's going to burst on the scene. A couple other Strava File of the Week candidates there. Like, his prep for this has been amazing. He trains in Cedar City with Hayden Hawks, who knows Black Canyon intimately. Young to the sport, but I think has all the capacity to blow it out of the water here. He's not scared of anybody. He's fast.
You know who I want to see prove that they still have it is Adam Mary.
Oh, yeah.
I want, because he like just signed that new contract with ACG. Is kind of like what I feel like a couple years ago was right on that heavy hitter list bubble and like going up, and then like has stepped back a little bit, but now seems to be on the upward trajectory again. So like, I want to see Adam have success.
Who else do you think needs to have a race like that and needs to almost prove themselves and have a result that puts them back on the radar of the ultra running world?
I think
their brand.
Matt Seidel. I think Matt Seidel, he's had some interesting races here at Black Canyon. Was it last year or 2 years ago that he was like running off the front?
He went for it. What year was that? That was in, I think,
Was it 24?
2023.
23. Oh, man.
No, 20. Gosh. He was leading it at the year I was in the field.
Yeah, like I think it maybe the snow year.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was 24. So like, and he was like, it was just too hard. Like, he's been one of those people where we look at his training on Strava and we're like, oh yeah, this is the race. Matt's throwing it down. And then it just like hasn't quite gone way, but we all know it's there. I mean, in previous iterations of Black Canyon, we have had this talk with Mackay Clemens. I think Matt Seidel is one of those people who's like he's been ready for that breakout performance for a while.
Yeah, Matt led the race 2024 into Antelope Mesa ahead of Hayden Hawks and Hans Troyer.
Okay, yeah.
For me, the answer is Anthony Costales. He is one of the absolute best in the sport when he's on. You know, he's won this race before. He set a new mark back in 23. He beat the great Tom Evans, and he is at that level of talent and capacity when he's healthy. All signs point to him being in exactly that same spot coming into this race. He's an absolute force. It's Anthony for me. I was going back, by the way, to the Adam Mary 2023 results. Chuckanut, which he won, beat Seth Ruling. Canyons, when he took the golden ticket, Cole Watson, David Roche, Justin Grunwald.
Adam was there.
Yeah, there.
Okay, I have a question to throw both of your guys' ways. So when we were talking about kind of winning on the women's side, we were kind of talking about being a little bit more aggressive early on and then just not fading. How do you win this race on the men's side?
I think similar to how Seth did it last year, I think you need to go out at a pace that is hot. You need to be smart, and you need to play to all the race tactics going on around you and hang. I think that's where Eli lost it last year, was just the race tactic portion there. I think Francesco Pupi, when he lines up at a race, he's absolutely dialed, especially here on American soil. Like, he's here for one reason, and he's going to race the field and see what he has left in the second half of the race, he said. And I think he's going to nail it. And I think that's going to be a fast pace that you just need to hold on to. And that's why I think we see that 10% differential that's the way you win this race, is holding on. Whereas women, you can be a little bit more tactical.
I think Francesco knocks down that 10%. I think he
I think so too.
Throws it into the singles.
Mm-hmm. The singles.
Can I throw you guys what I think is kind of a mind-blowing stat?
Let's hear it.
So Will Murray, course record at Javelina this year, 7:17 pace average for that race. Gap was 7:01. Seth Ruling, course record at Black Canyon, 7:17 pace, 7:05 gap. So I'm led to believe that there's a lot of room left on this Black Canyon course, unless I'm just not comparing. It's apples to apples. Am I missing something? Because I really do think that based on what went down at Javelina this year, that there's a lot of room on this Black Canyon course.
Leah, do you want to break this down?
Yeah. I think Javelina's very runnable. And I think Black Canyon is too in parts, but I do think, and I think Seth actually talked about this on one of the Boulder Boys podcasts recently, the technicality of the second half of the course needs to be talked about, because it's not smooth. And I do think we lose a little bit of that perception in gap paces whenever it comes to that second half of the race. So while I do think there is time to be had on this course, I think a male athlete can run, 20 minutes faster than what Seth has run there. And we very might see that this year. I don't think comparing Javelina to Black Canyon is exactly accurate. What do you think, Brett?
I just think that the Strava GAP is not perfect for net downhill courses.
That's a good point too.
There's a lot of miles where you're running 6 flat, but then Strava just gives you and especially on downhill douche grade, if it's really steep downhill, it gives you it also breaks it. But there's times where Seth's running 6 minutes and Strava's giving him 6:25, whereas I don't know, I don't think it quite works like that either. So I don't know if.
Yeah, that's a good point. I almost think the Javelina course is more standardized for gap pace.
Well, it starts and finishes in the same spot, which
whereas
helps
Black
hugely.
Canyon's a little less. But I think you bring up a good point. I do think there's time to be made on the Black Canyon course. But I also think that Javelina course record could go down quite a bit more too. So
yeah, and that's more just kind of linearly taking time off of every lap, though. because Will did a pretty good job of keeping it pretty even at Javelina. Not to dive too far into that performance, but yeah, like we're still picking apart pieces of the Black Canyon course where time can come down, and I didn't realize that, like Riley going 6%, only 6% slower in the second half, and Seth still being 10. It's like, well, if Seth had just run 6% slower, he would have run 7 minutes faster.
All great points. All great points. So it was the question, what's it going to take to win, essentially?
Yeah.
Because I guess my take of the episode is I don't think there's a race on the men's side. I think Francesco's going to time trial this thing. I think he's going to run probably 7:04, 7:05. And this is just going to be a race for second place. And it's going to be like 20 minutes back.
At what point in the race do you think Francesco is time trialing by himself? When does he have everybody dropped?
Bumblebee. I'll go pretty
Yeah.
early.
I bet you he's running 6 minutes to 6:05 pace at Bumblebee, and I think the chase pack will be 6:15 pace, like last year.
I'm not in agreement with
what do
you
you
two.
think?
I didn't think that Francesco would break it open until the long uncrewed section from Deep Canyon Ranch to Table Mesa. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that section where you go through Black Canyon City, that little out and back, and then you make your way out. What is that, through Cottonwood Gulch and then to Table Mesa? I think that's the section where Francesco is going to blow it open, because he's good at running long sections without aid, because that's more the style in a lot of European races. Whereas like a lot of the American men are used to getting, their shoes tied and their hands held like every 35 minutes. And then all of a sudden you have to go to 70 minutes without crew. But I figured that there's people who should be fit enough to hang with him through at least Bumblebee. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
like
last year's top 5 on the men's side separated by 12 minutes. It was a 7+ minute podium spread, pretty tight. I just think it's going to be a totally different story this year. Again, unless the Dark Knight rises, we get Jim Walmsley in there.
Dude, can we please just see like a WWE entrance at Shalene's on 17 on Friday when they do the panel, and he just like kicks down a door and is like, I heard you were looking for me. Oh my gosh, please.
Should we do picks? You want to lead us, Brett?
Yeah, as soon as I find them. How many? I got 5 pages of notes. Okay. 5th place, I've got Canyon Woodward. 4th place, I have Eli Hemming. 3rd place, I have Anthony Costales. 2nd place, I have Hans Troyer. And for the win, I have Francesco Pupi. And I do believe that he is going to run, where did my tab go for the times? 7:16, which is a 8-minute course record.
Let's hear yours.
What do you got, Leah?
Oh, fine. Okay. I'm just gonna, we're making these on the fly. 5th place, Stephen Kirsch. I really liked how he ran at JFK. I think he's kind of dialed. He's got that new dad energy and feeling good. I got Blake Slatengren in 4th. Blake had a really cool workout. He's coached by Joe McConaughey, and there was one workout that I really liked that he had that was 7 by 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and you would go out at like quite a hard effort and then kind of like dial it back to like half marathon and then to like marathon effort throughout, and have to keep on doing that for 7 times, which if you go check Blake's Strava, Joe gives a good explanation of why they do that in training. But I thought it was unique. I also like to see people that aren't coached by some of the major umbrella coaching organizations. And I think Blake is one of those people. We talked about Anthony kind of like needing a good result here. I think Blake is another one that is due for a really great result, and would love to see him be at least in contention for a golden ticket back to Western States. So I've got him in 4th. Got Zach Perrin in third. I want to say he's also coached by John Fitzgerald. He was on course with a whole gaggle of people doing Camp John a couple weeks ago on the Black Canyon course and got his mileage up quite high, probably 140-ish miles like a couple of those other guys those weeks out on course. And like Finn mentioned, he seems very focused on Black Canyon this year, and I think he's got the leg speed to show for it. So Zach Perrin in third, Anthony Costalas in second, and probably a distant second to Francesco Pupi. I think Francesco might have this one by at least 10 minutes.
Whew, that's
A time
dominant.
prediction?
Time prediction, what'd you say, Brett?
I said 7:16. I said 8-minute
Okay.
course record.
Okay, we'll do 9-minute course record, 7:15.
Touche.
In sixth place, because I need to go 6 deep here, I've got Stephen Kirsch. And Stephen is taking a ticket back to Western States. This has been quite the saga after he voluntarily gave it up a few years ago. He's been fighting his way back ever since.
So you're rolling it down to 6.
It has to roll down to 6. I should probably start number 1. So I've got Francesco winning. Francesco is winning 7:04. He's on 6:59 or lower pace for a majority of this race, but he fades to 7:04. Distant second, and this actually is the race of the day. It's Eli Hemming, Anthony Costalas, and Hans Troyer battling it out all day.
That's a good
Eli in
race.
second in 7:15. Anthony third. Eli, Anthony take tickets. Hans in fourth. Canyon in fifth. Canyon Woodward. And then it rolls down to Kirsch in sixth. So we've got Eli, Anthony, and Kirsch going to States.
Before you said that, I realized that in my picks, I only had 2 golden tickets being given out because Francesco and Hans and Canyon are all in. So before you started your picks, I'm just saying, you might be able to have heard my clicky-clacky on my keyboard. I wrote the 6th place, and for that 3rd golden ticket, I also wrote Stephen Kirsch.
Okay, it's time. It's high time.
I like that.
6th place roll down. That's fun.
Who do you think this is an opportunity for? Like, I know we talked about people who need a race. How about from like a sponsorship perspective? Do we think that this would make an impact on the men's side?
I think Canyon.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like he's probably, because he would be the only unsponsored person in that grouping of, well, Zach Perrin's unsponsored, right?
He's unsponsored in my list.
Yeah.
I think
I'll
Zach's
take
an example of somebody that would need to have then another result to like double down, almost like you're talking about Canyon here, having his javelina, and then if he were to double down with a podium race here, another top 5 in a competitive field.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the Anthony Costalas of 2024. You win Black Canyon, you do well at Western States, you sign that Nike contract. That's a good model for Zach to follow.
I like
That's
that.
the route he's looking to go,
Got to wear his college jersey then.
which is CU Boulder. Which
That's pretty
I think he
intimidating.
said he was roommates with Adam Peterman.
He was.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
This is kind of a lame answer, but I'll just say, because we don't have the data, anyone on a 1 year or in a contract year. And maybe just to let's just assume Adam is on a 1 year deal with ACG. I have no idea. But if he is, I mean, this would be a great way to kick off that partnership and be top of mind with athlete manager. And I think it sets up the rest of your year pretty nicely. So I think if like Adam could top 10 here, it'd be a fantastic start to locking in something longer term.
Totally. Especially with like how good some rollover bonuses are now. Like your motivation as a like, yeah, you got that contract, but like they're given, a lot of these pros have many, many carrots dangling in front of them. If they like the taste of carrots, I guess. In this metaphor, that's money. Because there's like, going into a 1 year, like, you could make that next year, like re-sign, like pretty fat.
That's true.
Well, Brett, Leah, this has been an amazing episode. Great preview. Before we go, both of you are going to be on the ground. Just really quickly, starting with you, Leah, like talk about roles, responsibilities on race day.
Yeah, I'll be in the studio from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. And I think 5 p.m. should be pretty comfortably after F10 comes through, and I'll be following, I believe, a opening from AJW and Chris Warden being early in the studio that day, and I will be joined by Skylar and Hillary Yang on the mics in studio, and I'm really looking forward to it. We are bringing Monty out, and we had some last-minute childcare fall through, so I think we're leaning on some local community for some help there, so very gracious for that, and then I'll be out just supporting on course for the 50K on Sunday.
Do I need to bring like my baby Bjorn?
You might need to. You
Will I
might
need
be
to
out in the field with
hold
Monty.
will I be on Monty duty at all? Okay, well, just let me know. I will be
You and
out on
Mike can toss back
course.
and forth.
Yeah, Mike can I can just like relay down the course all the way until eventually handing him off to you. I'm going to be doing course commentary, still finalizing the locations, but I think across the years of commentary, I've been at every single spot now. So I'll be out there somewhere, and then hopefully running it back and actually racing the 50K on Sunday, which is always a good media race.
I should have jumped into that, but last time I got stung by a scorpion in the 50K and had to withdraw. That's why Brett beat me. It was a whole thing. So I think I'm just calling it before that.
Yeah, just forever retiring. I would be hesitant to sign back up for the race if I got stung by a scorpion. That has not happened to me yet, so I'm going to keep rolling the dice out there. And yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm excited to. Are we recapping this?
Yeah, so just to give you my situation, it's way lamer, but I'll be here in Salt Lake watching you guys watch the runners. It'll be fantastic.
Well, we need someone to actually watch the race.
Yeah. I'll watch the race. I'll watch the full lash. I'll take notes, and then we'll be back here the Monday after to do kind of quick reactions, recap of everything that went down. And I gotta say, of everything, Brett, most excited for your 50K. I think it's going to be a great race. I know you are fit AF, and it's going to be good. Fast media. Let's go.